Hi guys, welcome to the Sports Bets Daily Show. I'm your host Alex, and now with me Craig Edwards, the big Craig Edwards, the snooker and the golf master, here with us to break down the two competitions, the two tournaments going on this week from snooker and from golf. And we start with his favorite and my favorite between the two, snooker, the International Championship with the big names with us right now. But let's talk about a little bit about the Riga Masters, because what a surprise, young Bing Tao there. And if you remember, Craig, we talked about the nation of the winner, Chinese, at 10.0. So who played that made some good money there. But some important stuff also. Cahill plus 2.5 against Mark Williams. I was telling to you, and you said that you totally agree with that bet. But Mark Williams eventually lost in the second round there. And a big surprise, Neil Robertson lost his flight. So his flight was canceled or something like that. And they were making fun on Twitter with his opponent from round one because he was coming with the same flight. And they were saying that it's an intense snooker match, free, and so on. They were making fun on Twitter. I had a laugh with them a little bit there. But important for us that for Neil Robertson, all the markets were voided from the bookmakers because of what happened there. But moving on to this international championship, many outrights right now. Winner market, quarters market, some price boosts if you can find right now. If you have some bookies like Sky Bet, Judge Trump to win the international championship at 6 right now. What's your take on this one? Do you think that still hangover from the summer break for some of the players, some of the big names? Obviously, Ronnie O'Sullivan is not performing in this one either. So welcome to the show first, and let's hear some of your thoughts on this tournament.
Well, it is a lot bigger tournament than Riga, so it's £175,000 to the winner, which is the fourth highest on the circuit. Riga was only 50. But the players that played in Riga will have an advantage. They will have sharpened up considerably on the ones that have had their summer break. So any players that played in Riga, especially the ones that won a match or two, will be sharper for that experience. Just let me put the connection in. Will be sharper for that experience, and I do think they will have an edge this tournament, especially in the early rounds. Rounds 1 and 2, there may be a few upsets. You've got a situation now where Neil Robertson didn't make the plane, Kieran Wilson, two of the big seeds. They were going to be playing in Riga, the biggest seeds. So now their season's straight on the back foot, and they're going there cold, which it's not ideal for them. They like to play a lot of snooker. So very much this tournament, I'm going to be going through the players and supporting the players that appear to be sharp and winning a couple of matches until the top seeds warm up. But I would expect some casualties amongst the top seeds in the early rounds of this event, definitely.
It doesn't surprise me that, again, you're going for the big guns here. I was reading your articles. Again, big odds. You are taking Yan Bingtao, the 19-year-old who just won in Riga at 81 with Bet365 each way. Why you are taking him? Just because of his win in Riga? I presume that you've seen him playing in Riga, and you've seen the matches, and most of all the final. Very impressive tournament for him. Why you are taking him?
Well, he started off his career 2 seasons ago very fast. He made the final of the Northern Ireland Open. And then last season was a real disappointment for him. It was a typical second season for professionals. Sometimes the ones that start fast, they get burdened with mental expectations for the second season. The people around them expect them to win all the time. And regular professionals, it's just not that easy. They're all good players. And this season he came out, I watched him in the World Cup, and I watched some of his tactical play. Possibly concerned in the long run for Yang Bintao that he's playing so much tactical play at this point, but he's playing it very cleverly. He's putting balls on the cushions when he's in front. His shot selection in Riga was first class. So I do. The thing is now he's got that bit of confidence from winning, and also it'll release some of the pressure that's been built up on him as the next best teenager. And going back home to China, Ding Junhui has not been performing now for 2 seasons, and he must be feeling the pressure that one of his compatriots is going to start to go past him. And Yan Bingtao might have opened the floodgates for himself to win more tournaments, but maybe even more Chinese players to win more tournaments as well. But his confidence should be high, and he's not got the easiest of draws, I will say that, and that's possibly why the bookmakers opened him at 80-1. But 80-1 is still a big price, about possibly the most informed player currently in snooker. So you can almost take that blind and allow his confidence just to take him as far as it will at this point. He's sharp, and so we're quite happy. I'm quite happy at the price, because last week he went off at 28-33-1. He's won. He's a better player. This is going to be, in theory, a better player this week and play better if he plays to his best game. And you're getting over double the price. So it's fine. I think it's fine for a small each-way bet. Some of the quarters, some of the firms have him at 16-1 to win his quarter. That's also fine for people. I would not put people off that bet at all. It's just if he kind of plays the rush that he's in and feeling confident that, he's got the ability to put the other players on the back foot now. And we'll see. I mean, it's quite a big test for him in his own country at 11 frames. But I've got to say, watching him play, and I did watch the Riga Masters this weekend. I was most impressed with his shot selection. He's got
Long
a real
shots
air
also.
of maturity
Some
about
great
him for
long
a teenager.
Some great long shots from him. Very, very impressive. I was watching the final on Eurosport, and I was very impressed with him. I told you that sometimes I'm watching also some snooker on Eurosport when the season is not on for football. Now next week the Premier League is starting, so probably I will have less time for snooker. But yes, very nice from Jan there. But now the big guns are coming in. Judd Trump, favorite to win the International Champions tournament at 5.5, followed by Neil Robertson at 7, Mark Shelby at 8.5, and John Higgins at 13. And surprisingly, just one of them, just John Higgins, made the cut for you at 13 with a Betfred there. Why is that? Why not the first 3? Okay, I understand Neil Robertson without any match in Riga, coming here without playing in Riga because of his flight. But why not Judd Trump, Mark Shelby? Why not them two? And directly John Higgins?
Right, well, let's start with Judd Trump. I understand that since he won the World Championship, and he was brilliant in the World Championship, he took the sport to a new level against John Higgins, like he had in the Masters Championship against Ronnie O'Sullivan. And I'm expecting big things from Judd Trump, but I'm pretty sure he's been partying all summer in Vegas and what have you. So now the hard work is about to start for him again now, and he's going to have to live up to people's expectations. So I think we can oppose Judd Trump this tournament. Obviously, we have to respect him, but he was a slow starter last season. and he may schedule himself and his practice regime around the major championships. So easily looked over Judd Trump, and then Mark Selby. I respect the fact that he's going to come back to form at some point, so I take that as a given. Last season, he tended to just get outstayed in close matches, which is unusual for Mark Selby, and it suggested his confidence was just taking a few chinks, and snooker's 90% in the mind. And but last week he did win a match against Graham Dott from 3-0 down. But then he kind of undermined himself, because in the evening he played my friend from Grimsby, Stuart Carrington, and Stuart lost the first 2 frames, but he actually won quite comfortably the final 4 to win 4-2. And so he's straight back on the back foot again. He's only about 9 to win this week at best, or 8, so I've overlooked him as well. My train of thought with John Higgins is this, that the last 3 seasons he's finished in the World Championship final after having poor seasons by his high standards. But the year before, the last 2 he's lost close World Championship finals. Well, this time around it couldn't be close, because Judd Trump was just sublime. He played perfect snooker. Yeah. And I think John Higgins enjoyed it. I watched his face when he beat Dave Gilbert in the semi-final. After beating Robertson in the quarterfinal, I think he proved to himself that he could still do it under pressure. And then he's gone to China in the World Cup with Scotland, and he's won the World Cup. So although he's had an off season, he's had a little bit of snooker, and it's been positive for him. He's won the World Cup. He's got a few easy matches here. The first 2 matches should be easy matches for him over 11 frames. He plays a wild card, which you never know. Some of them are very good, but for John Higgins, and I'm just thinking that John Higgins may have an Indian summer coming up in his career, and after Mark Williams, and he's seen Ronnie O'Sullivan producing in the 40s, I think that World Championship reaffirmed some belief for him that he can still do it under pressure. So I've taken a view for quite a while that he's going to start this season strongly. So we will see in about a week's time if I'm correct on that. Yes, I looked over the others. Neil Robertson, I just took the view that last week wasn't perfect preparation for him. I was surprised to see a defending champion only flying out there the night before. It didn't leave any room for error. Normally he'd have a few commitments before the tournament, so that'll just kind of tilt him a little bit if things go wrong. But he's a great player. Out of the players, I would he would be the last one that I would kind of overlook. I would overlook Judd Trump easier and Mark Selby easier. So.
I totally agree with that. Before we go to the round 1 top tip from you, can I request to turn on the light, because obviously right now it's too dark for us to continue. I'm sorry for that, but England is Greg is in England, so. We are in the evening time, so till 5 minutes ago it was sunny. Now we needed light. That's perfect. So can you give, I saw you opposing 2 good players in the first round in your articles there, but between the 2 of them, which is your top tip for the round 1 of fixtures? Obviously, you will come back next week with some more snooker and some more articles with the best top tips from the second round. But I'm very curious to see your top prediction from the first round of fixtures for the International Championship.
Well, my top tip of the 2 would be Yuan Sijun to beat Sean Murphy. So Sean Murphy didn't play last week. He didn't qualify. And Yuan Sijun, he played his opening match against Ricky Walden. I was most impressed with how he played. So he's sharp. He did lose to Lee Hang the next match, but that wasn't an easy match for him. So I'm thinking that he's going to be too sharp for Sean Murphy. He beat John Higgins and Mark Williams last year, and he's got the appetite for beating the big names. So I'm thinking I would have just about made Wan Si-jun favourite for this match, to be honest with you. So there's a little bit of juice in supporting him this week. He would be my favourite bet for the first round, yeah.
Awesome. He's priced at 2.3, if I remember correct from your article, 2.38.
Yeah, that's it, Alex.
Okay, that's it with snooker. Let's continue with golf. Another great winning week for Craig last week. I don't know, the odds were 33, if I remember correct?
Yes, on the Senior British Open, we found a guy that was making his senior debut. He'd been on the American Tour, Doug Barron. He was a regular on the PGA Tour, and then he failed a drug test about 10 years ago. But he had been playing well on some of the minor tours. One of my friends on Twitter, Albatross Bombs, he told me about some of the form he was producing. And yeah, he just looked like a bit of a flyer, really. He was a bigger price than he should have been, and he produced, luckily, so that was good.
He produced for us to have another amazing week in golf. Now we are in Wyndham Championship, and you have some more great odds for us at 31, at 56, at 101. Again, we are getting used with your betting strategy here. But the most I love the place markets here, because this is what I follow the most. Yeah, I put a small unit, not a unit, an entire unit, 10% from a unit on the recommended bets on the long shots there for the winning market. But I put more on the place markets there. And please tell us your approach for this tournament and your top tips.
Right, well, the Wyndham Championship, it finishes the season, and the players, they are trying to get in the top 125 to retain their playing privileges on tour, not only to get in next week's event, but to get in next season. So some players on the cutoff are under a lot of pressure, and this venue is a Donald Ross design. The winning score is always low, always about 20 under, sometimes even 22 under. And I've gone for Patrick Reed that won the Masters last season. He's won here once. He saw off Jordan Spieth down the stretch. I think he's about 20 to 25. And he has just been teetering on the brink with his form last few weeks. He played well at the British Open, well at the 3M. Since about the US Open, his form has consolidated into some nice consistency, and coming back to a venue he's won at, he'll be feeling good, and if the putter works for him, he'll have every chance. Then we have Cameron Smith, an Australian who's won the Australian PGA the last 2 years. He's been earning good money on the United States PGA Tour, but he's yet to win. He's yet to win on the PGA Tour, and he's done everything but win. But actually, from about February or March until the British Open, he's been really in a slump. British Open, he finished 20th. Last week at the FedEx, I think he finished about 11th. And he's had 2 top 20 finishes here, so he likes it here. So he's trending towards a nice bet. And I would, if anyone can get 8 places each way, I would take anything above 33 on him. And then the last one is my outsider, Doc Redman. People say, why have I tipped him? Well, his one good performance this season was on a Donald Ross design course. He was second a few starts ago. Very often players that fits their eye to play on the same designers courses, they tend to play well. And he's he's shown the ability to go low and streaky with lots of birdies. He finished 20th in the British Open, first time over to the links course. That was very impressive. And, you know, he opened at 150 this week. I mean, I nibbled away at that, and he's down to about 90 or 100 now, but it's worth an each-way bet. So Doc Redman is worth just a small each-way bet for people. He's a young man trying to make his way on the tour. I like to support youngsters that are going to win tournaments, because the older players I save for my place model. And
tell me why you're not playing usually the first round leader. I've never seen you playing the first round leader. In none of your articles I've seen you doing that bet.
Oh, well, I will throw a couple in for you, definitely. Sometimes it's a case of kind of trimming them down. But I do like a first-round leader tomorrow. It's funny you should say that. Tom Hogue, he has been in the top 5 here on first rounds twice. He started last week like a train. He's coming into form. Tom Hogue, 125 each way. That is a good bet tomorrow. I like it. I've had a nice bet on that myself. Yes, I will. I'll put a few in my articles in future. I'll mix a couple in for you, and when I like them. He's got an early tee time as well.
Tell me about Doc Redman. You have him at 100-1 to win each way, but why not to bet to finish in top 20 at 4.5 with Bet365? Why not to bet to finish in top 10 at 10 with Coral here? I think that these are very, very good set of odds. If not to risk so much at 100-1 each way, in top 20 at 4.5 makes a great number.
Well, I can give you my logic for it. I'm not sure it's everyone's logic, but my logic for it is that Doc Redman is a new player to the tour, and new players are more comfortable winning than seasoned professionals, and they tend to be more aggressive. And already he's had 2 second-place finishes this season. So because of their aggression, they tend to be all or nothing. So you either have them in the top 5 contending to win, or you have them out down the bottom of the field. And so I try and exploit that from betting, and the fact that he's not really, as yet, a proven consistent performer. So whereas, just for argument's sake, to use an example, if I go over to my place model, I put up Billy Haas, who's a really consistent player here. I think he's had 7 top 30 finishes, 4 top 10 finishes. And he's now getting to a stage in his life where he's not won for a few years. He has been a winner, but winning becomes more difficult. Okay. But the thing is, they are more professional at seeing the 4 rounds out and getting the score together, because as a professional gets older, he's probably thinking less about winning tournaments and more about earning a living. So that kind of aggression goes out of their game, and a little bit of belief when they become in contention. So I try to exploit that from my betting angles. The fact that my players I've got this week, Patrick Reed won the Masters last week. Cameron Smith and Doc Redman are both want to win. They've not won on the PGA Tour yet, but they are young men and they are improving rapidly. And then, you know, you go over to the play side of things, where you've got more journeyman players that play every year, like Ryan Armour and Billy Haas, the players that don't necessarily find winning very comfortable or easy, but they are very consistent, and you can actually rely on them producing a little bit more consistently than, say, Doc Redman.
One of the players that you really like, I've seen him in many of your articles since you started with us over at oddsmarket.com, is John Chin. I've seen him, I don't know, 3-4 more times so far. What about him? Top 10 at 51. Why?
I love it.
Why should we have a punt on that?
Well, I mean, it's just bookmakers being bookmakers. He's had a poor season, but it is his first season on the PGA Tour. He's only just 30. for some golf professionals, it's a slow thing, their career. So the last 2 weeks of the season, there's been a real palpable improvement. He finished, I think, 38th at Barracuda. And then, Barbasol. And then last week at Barracuda, he came third. So the thing is, he likes courses where it's not too tough, where there's plenty of birdies and you're going to go low. And he's so far back in the rankings, he's under no pressure. He can almost just play attacking at the game. And I get the impression he's playing well. So I'm getting 50-1, about the same bet that won last week when he finished third. In actual fact, if you wanted to go top 5, you get 100-1. So in a way, the bookmakers really shouldn't be giving 50-1 on a guy that's on a similar test this week, placing again. So that's very much
just
price relative.
He has just because he has a bad season, right?
Yeah, and he's in form now, so he's feeling good. He'll have got probably $200,000 or $300,000 in his pocket last week, more than he's ever won, and he'll be feeling cock a hoop, a bit like we spoke about Jan Bingtao in the snooker. He'll be feeling at the peak of his powers for his standards. So he's kind of free rolling this week, and yeah, it could be nothing, but equally, if he plays as well last week, you'll end up with a 50-1 winner. So it's pretty. That's it's an easy bet.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Tell us your favorite bet for this tournament. Do you have a top 10 finish, a top 20 finish? I don't know, each way winner, but a safer one. Give us a safer one, for God's sake.
Well, I nearly put it, because on my article I put Billy Haas for a top 10 finish, because most of the bookies were betting at 12, and I think he's got about a 30% record of making the top 10 at Wyndham. But if you really wanted to play it safe with him, you could actually take the top 20 and take it down and get another 10 places and go with Bet365 or whatever firm you want to go with. I think 4-1, 5-1 is easily available. And, I think that would be my idea of safe bet. It's been quite an interesting story with him, if people read my article, where he's coming back from a very serious car crash last year. And he was a high-class player. And, the last 2 weeks has shown a little bit of form. And he's coming to a venue he really likes. So it looks a perfect bet for people to have a little banker if they want a top 20 finish, Alex.
On chat with us, Natalie, she's back from holidays. We are very, very happy to have her back. And she's preparing for a huge season. Now she's preparing some graphics for the new season. You guys will see another face starting next week for us at Odds Market. Also, Eric, who is writing Formula One and the MotoGP, is with us on chat. And thank you, Craig, very much for delivering snooker and golf tips also for this week. See you next week. Enjoy your weekend, let's say, because you have a longer weekend than normal. You're starting tomorrow. Best of luck with your bets, and thank you once again for your incredible knowledge and for your great betting tips week in and week out. That's it for today with Craig. He will be back next week with some more betting tips for the two sports.
Thanks, Alex. Have a good show.
Thank you. And we continue with our boys, with our gang from UFC, MMA. Dave and Jason here with us once again. Yo, boys, what's up? How you been?
What's up, buddy?
Terminator, my guy.
Who is echoing there, guys?
Is it me?
I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe Rafa will fix it for us. Maybe Rafa will fix it for us. Anyway, how was UFC 240 for you, Jason?
We made money on the fight cast, Dave and I, but the last two fights cost us about 4 units in profit because Max Holloway did not win inside the distance, and we had him to win inside the distance, and Cyborg did not knock out Felicia Spencer, and that went the distance. So personally, I made like 1,300, but we only picked up a unit on the show, and unfortunately on the articles, we went 0-2 because they both went the distance. So we're at like 66% now over the last 15 picks
Fights.
on Odds Market.
But it's not all bad news,
Okay,
because if you followed the tips I gave out on the show last week, you would have been up just under 3 units. Punch and parlay cashed. None of the dogs cashed, but they were only half unit plays. All the plays I gave out last week, I think I landed 2.8 units, I think. And if you were watching the Kegcast live, Jay just openly slapped 8,000 on Cyborg to give himself 8,000 back. So, you know, it's place and time.
Like he usually does, Jay is usually
yeah,
doing
we call
that
it a
on,
J size
every
bet.
sports gig.
That's what it's called.
That's right.
How he's
That's
called?
right.
It's a J size bet.
J size bet. I love that. Punching parlay ended good, ended the season good. So 3-7 after a great season with 10-0. We are back with the punching parlay this week. We don't have yet the article up on the site, so we will not even talk about it on the show. We will let our viewers enjoy it on oddsmarket.com once it will be up on the site, and also on Twitter and on social media, like we always do. But I was reading the 2 articles you guys have, of course, the dogs and their odds. But most important, I was reading Jason's article today because he's saying that it will be a great fight between Lawler and Covington. The main event there, it will be huge. I don't know. He doesn't like the entire card, but he loves this fight. So Robbie Lawler against Colby Covington. Tell us more about it, Jason.
Yeah, it was a tough fight for me. I like Robbie a lot. He's a legend in the sport that he just happens to still be fighting. He's 1-2 in his last 3 fights, but he's looked really good the last year and change. He beat Cowboy Cerrone in a close decision. Rafael dos Anjos, he looked really good, but unfortunately he didn't get the nod there. And then he was looking really good against Ben Askren. He power slammed him early in the fight. He was ground and pounding him, and unfortunately Herb Dean didn't stop the fight. He should have, probably. And Ben Askren made his way back up to his feet and choked out Robbie, but he didn't really choke him out. It was just a crap show, man. The whole fight was just garbage. But, I mean, Robbie's got dynamite in his gloves. His power is ridiculous. The reason he's so effective is because it's a byproduct of how technical his striking really is. He cuts the angles well. His combinations are solid. His counter-striking game is great. He sits down on his punches when he's in the pocket. So he's a strong welterweight for the division, too. His strength usually plays a role when he's in the clinch and against the cage, which is where Colby Covington is going to want to keep the fight. And finally, he's a great wrestler. It's often thrown on the back burner because people tend to just think about his explosive striking. But his top control wrestling is really good, and his ground and pound is great. On the flip side, Colby Covington, he's a problem at 170 pounds. And that's why he's the number 2 ranked welterweight in the world right now. He's probably at the best gym in America right now, at American Top Team. He's a former teammate of Robbie, so they know each other pretty well. I don't like him. His attitude sucks. His out of the cage antics are terrible. He's arrogant. But I mean, all that said, I can't take his fight game away from him. He's an incredible wrestler. We're talking about a kid that was an All-American at Oregon State University. He's a 2-time Pac-10 champion in wrestling. It starts there for him, and everything else he does basically works off his wrestling. And what makes me tip my hat off to Colby Covington the most is his stamina is absolutely absurd. He's got a motor possibly like nobody we've ever seen in the octagon before. From the second the bell rings, he's in your face. His pressure is insane. He's constantly looking to impose his will on you for whether it's 15 minutes or 25 minutes, depending on the fight. And that's how he beats his opponents. He breaks them down physically. One thing about Covington that's interesting is he's not a dominant finisher. 50% of his wins are left up to the judges to decide. And that's because he's really not that great of a striker, really. He's serviceable, but, you know, he's not that entertaining to watch. It's a slog. His fights just go the distance. At the end of the day, I think in order for Robbie to win the fight, he's going to have to find the button and knock Colby Covington out. He's not going to outscore him. He's not going to outpoint him in a 5-round fight, especially because you have to assume that Lawler's going to spend some time on his back because of how good Colby Covington is on the mat. I don't like betting on fighters that have one path to victory, and that's the only path I see for Robbie is a knockout. So I've got to take Colby Covington here because of the avenues that he has to win the fight. But here's the problem. As much as I think that he wins the fight, right, it's all about the price, obviously, with Dave and I, right? So I can't back Covington at the current number of like 1.40, I think he is. So I gave the readers a buy price on the article of 1.55 or lower. And I do think because of how popular a fighter and how long Robbie has been around, he could take late money.
Sorry to interrupt you. The price is going up. Now I can see at 1.53 with BetHard, and it's trending up. So I think that I'm sure that you can find him tomorrow at 1.55. So you are saying not to bet anything under 1.55. In European terms, under means under 1.55, 1.5, 1.45. In US, you say anything under, which it comes on the other total way.
Minus
you know,
180.
So yeah, 1.53 right now with BetHard and trending up.
Yep. Yeah. So if you can get him at minus 180 American or lower, then I would take Covington. If you can't, it's a pass.
Okay. So it's a pass if you don't find him at 1.55 and up. Right now, Lawler is at 2.83. 2.94, the best odds on the market with a Pinnacle. And Covington is at 1.53 right now, the best odds that you can find on the market with BetHard. But I see it going up, is trending up. So interesting to see Jason giving up a specific price. If it doesn't pass that price, you don't take it. Coming back to Dave here, tell me a little bit about the Punching Parlay Season 3. I want to see your approach here. If you have the same approach like in the first two seasons, and after that we will talk a little bit about the dogs on their odds, and we will finish talking about the co-main event for the UFC, Jim Miller versus Clay Guida. I will ask you both to give me your thoughts on this match.
Yes, sir. Punching Parlay, I think I did. I've not looked at season 2 entirely, but from a quick review, looking at my record, if I compare that to season 1, what I did a lot more in season 2 was take risks. So I was taking risks for a bit more money.
You
won't see that happen. You will not probably see me
take them. You cannot compare the first one with the second one. You cannot compare the first one and the second one. But I was thinking, this is what I was asking you. you are going back to the first season with your takes because it was more successful, or you will combine the risk from the second season with the first one?
I'm just gonna start steady. This week we're gonna be looking at odds of around 1.83. So already you know that I'm coming in at slightly more cautious. But it just all depends on the odds, you know, that are gonna be presented to me in the next few weeks. When I look ahead, sometimes I look ahead of the punching parlay, and I already have half of, you know, an episode's parlay sorted, you know, 4 or 3 weeks prior. For example, Daniel Cormier will be on the punching parlay when he fights. It's more than likely I'll have Nurmagomedov as the punching parlay when he fights. Certain positions that are real strong are going to make it in there weeks before, but obviously only the big fights we get given odds for in advance. So yeah, but even with the losses in season 2, once you take your state back, and then the 3 or 4 wins, it was only -2 something units. So after that big heavy losses, because we were staking, you know, wisely and carefully and cautiously,
yes, exactly.
we don't come out losing all that much, even when you lose 6 or 7. So that's always been my goal with these parlays, is to keep the risk down. And yeah, I'm just need to. It'll be back on track. We're two weeks now, 2 weeks running. Let's beat that 10-0. I want to go for 12-0 because that's where I need to be.
So basically, we are talking about 13-7 in total combined for both season, and we are starting now season 3 of the punching parlay, starting this week with the UFC on ESPN 5. 2 good reads on the dogs on the roads. You are doing such a great job with that take there with your article. Tell us the 2 fights and tell us what you're going with.
Yeah, see, a lot of the dogs and their odds plays, a lot of them have been price plays, which always, long term, I'm telling you guys, it's the same in the majority of sports. You can ask Jay with football, you can ask guys at the sports keg, like Ant at the sports keg about MLB. You're not picking out favorites long term is not going to work out for you. So when you can find these underdogs in positions that just don't make sense, it's always worth taking them. And first this week we have Hannah Goldie versus Miranda Granger. 2 new girls, both of them making their debut. It will be the first fight on the card. They're very green, unexperienced. But for some reason, you can pick up Miranda Granger at 2.40 on the decimal. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me at all. Stylistically, nothing separates these girls. Their skill sets are quite similar. I would give Goldie a slight striking advantage, but the more well-rounded fighter is Granger. And to be honest with you, she's the bigger girl. It's her first time. She's dropping down to flyweight. She's the bigger girl. She's going to have the bigger reach. I'm not sure if she'll have the strength advantage, but at this price, sorry, but I have to take the dog here. I'm seeing Hannah Goldie at some books sitting at 1.55 -182, which is absurd to me. It's ridiculous. There's no way this type of fight should have an underdog price like this. They're too closely matched, and yeah, half a unit Miranda Granger at 2.40, 11/8 fractional, and +138 American. So yeah, Bet365. I think you can get that price at. Yeah, I love that play. It's first fight of the night. Hopefully start the night off well.
Okay, someone on chat, Craze DX, is saying that the main event will go to distance, and 61% of the bets right now are on the underdog, Lawler.
Yeah.
What do you say about that, Dave? Jason?
The fight can definitely go the distance if Robbie doesn't knock out Colby, because it's just Covington's style. I mean, half of his fights have ended on the cards. So my only concern is it's a 5-round fight. So there are 2 extra rounds that you have to get through in order for the fight to go the distance. So I think I feel more confident in Covington probably winning the fight if we get a good price than I do about the fight going the distance. But it's possible.
Robbie, yeah, I like that. Do you know what? I like that. I like that. I do think I favour Covington, and I favour this fight going the distance without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, what's the price for that? We don't have it. We have just over 2.5 rounds at 1.32.
Minus 115 I'm seeing for the fight to go to decision.
So around 1.82.
Yeah, around those. Yeah, exactly around that. Robbie Lawler's not the same guy he used to be, unfortunately. I think we're seeing a decline now. He's 37 years old. He's not the same. I love Robbie Lawler, but he's not the same Robbie Lawler that knocked out Josh Koscheck and then head kicked Bobby Volker and then just went on a rampage through the decision, through the division. His battles with Johnny Hendricks and Rory McDonald. It's not the same Robbie Lawler. And when you put all them fights together, the guy has took so much damage. I actually saw an interesting metric the other day, which was funny to me. But this one website, I can't shout them out because I forgot who it was. But basically what they do is they take the damage that fighters have took and they give a rough estimate on the age of what the fighter should be in terms of damage taken. And they call it combat age. And right now, they are putting Colby at the age that he is, because he's took minimal damage, and they're putting Robbie Lawler at aged 52 when they put into consideration the fights he's been through and the damage he's taken. And when I see things like that, it just does become clear to me. You look at Robbie, he's just he's still got that power. He's still, he's still ruthless, Robbie Lawler, but he's coming up against an extremely tough wrestler who has took minimal damage and is, quite frankly, at the peak of his career. Colby's not a finisher. Yeah. I see this going the distance. If you don't like Colby's price, take a half unit on Colby by decision. You'll probably get close to plus money, if not higher.
Yeah, around there at 2.0. The co-main event on UFC on ESPN 5, Jim Miller versus Clay Guida, and we have Miller at 1.57 and Guida at 2.43. Jason, do you like these numbers? You hate these numbers? Again, you have a problem with how the bookies have approached this fight?
No, I like a play in this fight. I mean, I hate to see this fight. Both these guys are journeyman legends. Like, for real diehard fans of the sport like Dave and I, we absolutely love these guys, right? But I wish the fight was happening in 2008 and, not in 2019. They're 36 and 37 years old. They both probably should have hung the gloves up a year ago. They both grew up as wrestlers, and that's still what they're best at. Miller has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think Clay does too. I'm not sure. But they have 29 submissions between the both of them. They are serviceable strikers, but not great. I did not like how Guida looked against BJ Penn last time out. Dave and I both backed him to finish inside the distance, and it didn't go inside. It went the distance. To me, Jim Miller's looked better the last 2 years. So my gut says that the fight goes the distance. So I like that at minus 155. Fight goes the distance. If you don't like that, Jim Miller by decision is 3.02. So that's plus 202. But the pick in the article, which will be done in like 20 minutes after this show, is going to be the fight goes the distance at minus 155.
Okay, that's brilliant. I wanted to hear your thoughts on. I wanted to hear your best bet for this entire card for ESPN for UFC on ESPN 5. Also, Craze DX is saying to us that thank you for the insight, but I will do the opposite. We are not here to oblige you to bet what we are giving out. You can do the opposite. You are free to do whatever you choose to do. But be careful, because on the long run, you might lose there. So, Jason, please give us your best tip for this week's card.
From the fights that I've broken down so far, Alex, because I still have work to do to get ready for Saturday, my favorite bet is that the Miller fight goes the distance at minus 155. That's my favorite bet out of the bets that I've broken down so far.
Okay, that's brilliant. We lost Dave there. I wanted to ask him more about the dogs and the rods, but unfortunately, he's away right now. He's back right now.
Back.
So I don't know. Every time we have problems with Dave's camera or with his connection, but here he is. The last fight to break down here, Dave. Antonina Shevchenko versus Lucy Pudilova here, and after that, to give us your best bet for Saturday's card before we end the show.
Of the two females who we know that are more than likely going to take this fight the distance. We've got Shevchenko by decision at basically dead on plus money, 2.01. Neither girl's been finished inside the distance. Our girl Shevchenko, sister of the famous UFC champion Valentina Shevchenko, she is nowhere near on the same level as her sister, even though she's the older sister. But in this position, she's fighting a girl who's probably not going to implement any grappling at all, and Shevchenko will outstrike her. If we look at the striking statistics, she outclasses her in all of them. So it's, and I don't think she has any chance of finishing this fight. Not so much a good price on Shevchenko straight, I don't think, but it's more than likely going to be a decision victory. So, Shevchenko by decision, and also this fight will be on the punching parlay as well, but it will be a different angle.
A straight win. Yeah, I presume that it will be a straight win. But I wanted to ask you, this is not necessarily an underdog here. Because it's not a dog.
It's underdog money.
Your article is called "The Dogs and the Rods."
If I see a prop bet
huge
that I like,
favorite to win straight.
Say again, sorry.
I said that Shevchenko is huge favorite to win this match, and this is, I don't understand why you included her on this article, "Dogs and the Rods."
Because of the plus money, Alex. It's just plus money. If I see a prop that's in the plus money, and I've just been a bit unhappy with doing two dogs. There's not been many dogs I've liked recently, and the article's I've only been able to write two dogs. So if I can add a prop bet here and there, I'll gladly do that if it's on plus money. And in a position like this where Shevchenko is the heavy favorite, now just need to be careful. It will still be half a unit, because she was heavy favorite in her previous fight versus Roxanne Modafferi, and it went awfully wrong. She got out grappled. Now we have Shevchenko versus another striker, and she is just the speed. She's going to kill her with speed in this fight. She's going to outpoint her, and we'll see this fight go to the decision. And no, I won't be taking Shevchenko straight. I'm looking at fight goes the distance. Fight goes the distance. for this fight.
I love that, Dave.
From all the fights on the card, there's no way I can see this either girl getting a sub or knockout here. So
basically, this is your favorite bet, right?
Say again.
So basically, this is your favorite bet for Saturday, right?
Yeah, but obviously because of the juice on the end of Shevchenko and the fight to go the distance, picking Shevchenko by decision and then putting that in the Dogs article was the best thing for me to do to make some decent money.
Okay, that's it for today. Jason and Dave are writing weekly articles for oddsmarket.com for our site, so you can go to check them out. Punching Parlay starting the third season this weekend
tomorrow
with Dave. I am very, very surprised to see Dave going with one of the fights from the Dogs and the Roads in the Punching Parlay, but I can't wait to see the article and to bet on the article, because I bet on all the Punching Parlays. But the problem I have is that I cannot watch the sport, the Kickcast, because it's very late in my country, and but probably one day I will do that, and I will also come on the show to join the heavyweights of the UFC betting, Jason and Dave. Jason and Dave, thank you very much for joining me on the show today. See you next week with another card.
Thanks, brother.
And thank you everyone for watching us. We will be back on Monday with Champions League and Europa League and Premier League and all other sports. So thank you for joining us, and see you next week. Best of luck with your bets. Enjoy another profitable weekend. Bye-bye.